God, I thought it was going to be so easy. It's like, it's like Field of Dreams. I build it, they'll come.
Right.
Boy, was I wrong.
Welcome to episode 47 of the Bass Shed Podcast. My name's Ryan Roberts. Hey folks, on the show is D.Lakin, co-founder of Lakland Basses and now the founder of D.Lakin Basses. You guys hear me talk about D.Lakin Basses regularly on the podcast. I'm happy to be a part of the D.Lakin family. Other guests that have been on the podcast are also members of the D.Lakin family. Taras Pradanuk, David Hood coming up, Lance Morrison. That'll be next week. Dan will talk about Lance a little bit. Dan will talk about the backstory of the bass he built for David Hood, a story that David didn't tell in the same way. Dan will talk about some of that. We're going to talk about bass construction. We're going to talk about things he's into, things he's up to, some playing. Dan's getting back into some playing, and we'll talk about that. This does play really nicely into my regularly scheduled plug for D.Lakin Basses. D.Lakin Basses, founder of Lakland Basses, D.Lakin, has a new company, and I'm honored to be a part of the D.Lakin family. I co-designed a 5-string fretless with Dan and his design team. That bass is inspired by... That is the Inspired by Ryan Roberts bass. The number is the 5-6035. I spoke with Dan last week. That bass is off to be routed and painted. Actually, I spoke with him last week about that. That's when he told me that. I spoke with him earlier today, actually. And I'm like, dude, what do you think about a matte finish, huh? Like, I'm kind of into the matte finish. D.Lakin was not a fan of the matte finish. Yeah, what he had to say about it, I'm not going to repeat on the mic, but... it was hilarious. So that bass is underway. Dan is also doing a bass giveaway, and the first prize is your custom bass. The first prize winner will connect with Dan and the design team, and they will build you the bass of your dreams. Stop by www.dlakinbasses.com to learn more about how to enter. Also, check out Dan's Amp Shop. 5 brands you can't get on Sweetwater or at Guitar Center: Demeter, Trickfish, DNA, Gensler, and Epiphany. Personally, I'm a fan of Epiphany. I play them. Love it. I did play Gensler on a gig a couple weeks ago in Seattle. I played their heads. Fantastic. That was the first time I played a Gensler head, and no issues. I had a good time with it, and I used it on upright and electric. So that's my time spent with Gensler. You can get those from Dan's Amp Shop. Go to www.dlakinbasses.com. All products have a 30-day guarantee, and Dan will pay for shipping both ways. If you are a double bassist, you will want to check out Lemur Music, everything for the double bass. Head to lemurmusic.com. I've been a customer of Lemur Music since I started playing the upright, and I'm honored to have partnered with them. I'll be sharing more about that probably on the next episode. Later this week. I'm headed down to Lemur to meet with the folks there and exchange some information that I will be talking about on the next podcast. To let you guys know about the partnership I have with Lemur. But go to www.lemurmusic.com for all your double bass accessories, strings, sheet music, and more. lemurmusic.com. The Bass Shed website is dedicated to the artistry of bass legends and how we can broaden a stylistic vocabulary by learning and analyzing the work of these legends. I also get emails regularly about folks wanting to study privately with me. So if you're not quite into doing the transcription thing, although I'm a big advocate for it, honestly, I transcribe a lot. That's kind of the nature of what's up on the website right now. Is just the transcriptions and all the analysis of it. But if you want to learn some other things, some technical things, some theoretical things, some conceptual approaches to improvising, shoot me an email at ryan@thebassshed.com. I am offering a free trial lesson with every lesson sign up. If you're not feeling it after the trial, all good. Let me know, and I will reimburse you for the lesson that you did sign up for. But hit me up at ryan@thebassshed.com. Let me know what you're working on. Let me know what you'd like to be working on. Or you can visit thebassshed.com/private-lessons. All right, back to my talk with Dan Lakin. What you're being dropped into here is just kind of how him and I talk on the phone. This conversation is him interviewing me kind of more than I'm interviewing him. Yeah, that's just Dan and I talk pretty regularly. We're always just checking in with each other. It's been great to work with him in building this 5-string fretless that is on its way. And I love how opinionated Dan is about his ideas about the electric bass, mainly because mine are so different. Not so different. No, we're still going for the same thing. We're just coming from two very different places. And it's been a lot of fun to work with Dan and become pretty good friends with Dan. I'm going to throw it out there. Dan, you're a good buddy. Here's my talk with founder of Lakland Basses and D.Lakin Basses, Dan Lakin.
What kind of cans do you have on?
Who knows? Cheap shit.
Okay. These are $39 costs, but I swear by them. I've had them.
Cost
headphones for no, they're Porta Pro.
No, I haven't heard them. I don't think for this. I just need to hear somebody talk. I don't need bass response or whatever. Besides the D-Lakin stuff and the Demeter stuff and the giveaway, besides the commercial shit, what else is going on?
Starting a cover band with gimmicks. We're gonna do a couple Grateful Dead records. Grateful Dead are very popular here.
Okay.
So I'm trying to we're doing a couple early 70s records. And again, like gimmicks, like do full records or, be a particular band for the night, that kind of shit.
Right.
But not real music. I don't think there's any tours, coming through this summer or anything.
I heard that July 15th is when everything opens up fully, at least here. I don't know if that's nationally.
Wouldn't they start selling tickets or anything? Jeff, do you have any concerts?
Yeah, they sold the tickets for last year, though.
They're still got tickets from last year?
Stay with us, but this is going to be in July.
Just a year later?
Yeah.
Oh, but they're talking about doing it this summer?
They said
Do you get a vaccine? Did you get your vaccine?
I didn't get a vaccine yet.
You're going to get it soon?
Yeah, I think it's open to the public here. Like there's, the elderly, then like essential workers, and then everybody else. And everybody else starts April 15th. You can just kind of go get one. The normal people can get them then.
You know any conspiracy theorists that are not going to get it?
I know some anti-vaxxers. All right, so you got your band. You're going to be doing your band. What's the name of the band?
No, we don't have a name yet. Might be Grateful Fred because there's a guy named Fred. So
I think you should open it up. I think you should let social media. That's a way to get engaged.
It's funny you talk about. I went on social media with a picture of a relic because I
saw it. This is right after we talked, and it was like the day after you and I talked about it, and I know you hate them.
I hate them, and although I played one like last week that was really good, but it would have been just as good with a full finish. It just was a custom shop that actually felt like an old bass, first one I've ever played. So they're doing something right. But
what do you feel about the relic neck? Like if the neck's a little worn and kind of broken in and like the lacquer's a little rubbed off. How do you feel about that?
That was Lakland from day one. We did the fully broken in neck. See, the guy the land of Lakland, people used to buy guitars when they were only lacquer, back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And they would take them to his house before they went home and he would strip it and then put an oil on it. And we just did that out of the box. We just didn't put finish and just did oil. It's a very simple recipe. I've shared it with people. I give them it to if ever they want it. It's easy to do. So that getting that broken in feel is not a difficult thing at all. So I have really become enamored with short scale. Now, you as an upright player, maybe And to a lot of people, when you first pick one up, if you're playing a regular bass, you move to short scale, it feels like a toy. It doesn't feel right now.
Going from upright to a short scale feels like a ukulele.
Yeah, I can get that. But like if you play guitar and you go to a short scale, it's very natural.
Right.
And then I don't have big hands. I have average hands. And first position, I can't play 1, 2, 3, 4 on a regular bass on 34 inch. I use upright because I do 1, 2, 4, like Samandel.
Yeah, I do that.
Whatever. But so anyways, but what I didn't know going in when I started the short scale was I going to lose anything by going to the shorter scale? Like, why is the long scale is what it is? Now, the truth of the matter is, Leo just picked it. I don't think there was any scientific data behind it.
Right.
And
why do you think it was that arbitrary? Was there any scientific data by why 34?
No, what kind of scientific data do they have in 1951? For that matter, what kind of scientific data do they have now?
They're trying to track down communist back.
Overtones or what kind of bullshit, So, so so you think initially you look at it, well, the bigger bass is going to sound bigger. Well, what I've learned is that the longer you go, the clearer the tone gets. So you think of a piano, right? The low strings on a piano and that tone. And so if you're going for Chris Squire or even Entwistle, maybe, then that longer scale. And I think on a 5-string, you need the longer scale to make the B string work. So in those regards, but on a regular 4-string instrument, I have found the short scale even can sound fatter, and backed up by recorded samples. For recorded examples, all the Stones is short scale. Most of McCartney is short scale, although it's hard to tell when he's using the Rick or the Hofner. I have trouble, but a lot of the Grateful Dead stuff I love is short scale. Born to Run is short scale. There's a lot of. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of great long scale, but what I'm saying is that I don't think you lose anything. Now, I'm very anxious because in the next 2 days I'm going to get a fretless, and I'm dying to see if it's going to growl like
short scale fretless.
Yeah, will it? Because I'm into the Jocko growl.
Right.
That's what I like. So I've made a short scale with a Music Man pickup right on the bridge. Touching the bridge.
You told me about that.
I got the idea from hearing the lowrider back pickup sound was just killer. Instant Jocko.
What'd you do to the fingerboard to get that kind of
fingerboard? Nothing. It's untreated rosewood.
Okay.
Now you asked. That's interesting because I always thought, especially growing up, that a large part of that sound of Jocko was the boat epoxy.
Right.
Not true, because at Lakland, we took an ebony fretless board without any finish, recorded it, put a big fucking 1/10 of an inch thick boat epoxy, Jocko epoxy. Couldn't hear any difference. The only reason that they used the epoxy was because Jocko played that bass like 14 hours a day, every day, and the fingerboard can only take so much abuse.
Sure.
So you're going to wear through the fingerboard. And what I tell people
and he had to fill in the slots where the frets were.
Yeah, but you do that with little slips of maple now is what I do. Yeah. I just use necks that were destined to be fretted, and I stick them in.
Okay.
If you're going to go unlined, which I think is nuts, which you're getting, aren't you?
No, I thought mine was lined.
Yours lined. It is lined. It is lined. Yeah. Because I think, lines are, even if you're great. Danko did pretty well with unlined. And
I like the look of unlined.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
It looks like it's from the future.
Yeah. But so I don't know if the short scale is going to grow. I'll know in a couple days. I'll let you know, and you can update the podcast. But
yeah, well, you're gonna record it, right?
That's the only. I'll put some on it. But that's the only the last piece of the puzzle, and then I'm just like, I'm creating myself an arsenal of short scale. I have no reason to ever play long scale again.
Interesting.
And also,
they're definitely fun. Like I think of them as just fun because there's so much more to play. Like you can fly on those things. They
are fun and that is cool. There are not a lot of very few high end short scales, so I hope to be first and in on that. And there's a lot of commercial. Everybody's got great 34s. I mean, there's.
Sure.
What percentage of the market is short scale? Less than 10% probably. So there's a lot of commercial potential for good short scales.
Yeah.
As a manufacturer.
What are you doing? You're doing all the classics. You're doing a music. You're doing a P. You're doing a J. Yeah. Are you doing a PJ?
I never liked PJs.
Why not?
But I'll do it because I just think it's like either be a J or be a P. No. And so many great classic Ps were wrecked by people doing the PJ. So I
you don't lose anything on the P though. Like you only lose the J. You don't lose anything on the P. I know, but there's
the P, a 2-knob bass, simplicity. I just love it.
Okay. Yeah. That's your thing.
Magic to it.
You like simple.
So I have a what we call 5730. 57 refers to the year of design. So P-bass, modern P-bass design in 5730. My long scale 50 P is a 5734. And I have a J finishing up in a week, and then I make the 1930, which is the Music Man guitar body perimeter. So I'm fully outfitted. I'm going to make myself 2 fretless, one to have with flats, one to have with rounds. But I'll have like six or 8 of them.
What baby? I like it. What electronics are going in there? Who you using?
Pretty much passive, except the fretless. I'm throwing a Demeter 2-band preamp because it's Music Man pickups.
Yeah,
which work fine passively as well. I just got a passive Stingray short scale. Highly recommended. It's beautiful.
Man, is that the one I played at NAMM when I was talking to Sterling? You remember that, the sparkly one?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great.
I have one just like
a great little bass.
Yeah, I'm trying to get them to sell to me as a dealer, but they want me to have a store or some shit like that. So some
like
point
an actual brick and mortar instead of like a reverb store. Yeah.
But anyways, I highly recommend them. I don't know about their low price stuff, the Sterling stuff, but they redesigned the Stingrays in 2018. They got new tuners. They got a new bridge. They got they're using lighter weight woods. They revoiced the preamp, which I haven't heard yet.
Okay. Are they building their own electronics in house? Or they?
Yeah, they always have. Okay. They always have. Yeah, they're a good company. They've really done well with the line. A lot of big companies buy a brand and fuck it up.
Right.
And they have done very well.
Yeah.
Very well by it.
Are you still have a relationship with Bartolini?
Yeah, I guess I'm making a couple basses. So yours is one of them with the with the Bartolini Electronics.
But the Barts I chose are the ones you co-designed with him way back in the day. So I'm like, I'm using the preamp
here's the deal.
You designed with him.
Bartolini was a true mom and pop organization when I used to deal with them, Pat and Bill, and they sold about maybe it's 10 years now to a guy named Clyde. I don't know his last name, and he's doing well, but he's lately he's got the traditional Bartolini slow delivery on a couple, but the products are there, and he's doing well. He's doing he's doing better on delivery than they used to do. But he's making the products. He's doing it right. He's making the old stuff the way the old stuff should be made. So it's going good.
Nice.
It's going good. He's busy. I like, I don't like to have slow delivery, but I like to see people are busy.
Sure. Speaking of which, you got your hands in a bunch of stuff right now. Talk about your relationship with Demeter and what you're doing with Demeter and what you're doing with your amp store. So like I've talked about it on the podcast. But that was mainly because you sent me the email to talk about it. What's actually going on with it?
Well, Demeter and I we're working on a couple of projects together. One of them is a kind of like an SVT style head that kind of has a classic look, but will weigh like 30 pounds rather than 80 pounds.
That's good.
And you'll hear the way it'll sound when you get your Demeter in a couple of weeks.
Cool.
I've been through a lot of bass amps in my time. In fact, on the website, there's something called, I think it's under fun stuff. And I've got my gear history. It's kind of fun. I recommend doing it too. Like go think of all the amps and shit you've had and go on.
I've always had trouble with the amps. Like my personal history with gear, I think I can remember most of the basses I've had. But amps, I've never got the amp thing really dialed in. I've had a lot of good
you've
cabs.
Really been like called it your own and your thing.
I've had a lot of good cabs, Bergantino, the Epiphany I'm playing now. I played Aguilar for a little while, but the heads, I've never landed on a great head.
Well, I think I'll change your mind in a couple of weeks here. You'll see.
All right.
Because I never was a big believer in SVT. At Lakeland, we had a lot of, I used to do barter all the time. I never had any cash, but I always had basses. So I had tons of amps. It was great. It was fun. Get to hear what was on the market. When artists would come through, we'd have a nice selection for them to try. And I kept them all when I sold Lakeland. I was like, here, you can have the Hartkey. You can have the Hartkey 410 and the Hartkey head, which I think is the only amp they still have. I don't want to say bad things. Okay, so anyway,
you can. I'll edit it out.
All right. So the amp.
I would have given away the Hartkey too. I don't like that shit.
So we had an SVT because I was friendly with Ted Kornblum at St. Louis Music, who owned Ampeg at the time, another company that did very well with a brand. They took Ampeg and did good things with it. And I had an SVT with an 810 head bottom, and I never used it just because I preferred the Epiphany and some of the higher hi-fi stuff. And anyways, when we sold the factory, I moved the SVT home. I got rid of the 810 and I put it on an Epiphany cabinet. And I turned on, I was like, oh my God, this is what everybody loves. It just sounded great.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years back, I bought a Demeter VTB 800D, which is their 1200 watt, using the front end that he's been making for 40 years. He developed it with Leland Sklar. It's a very simple preamp. In fact, the tone control doesn't even do much. It just sounds good the way it is.
Okay.
It's got a couple of EQ points, a couple things on it, but very simple. And I loved it. And I did an AB, and it not only sounded similar to the SVT, but it actually got louder and cleaner. So I was sold at that point.
What was he modeling it after the SVT?
No. His preamp was based, I think, on a high watt preamp. I don't know. Amp guys can be weird. Jim's a really nice guy and fairly down to earth, but you got to be careful. They get pretty technical. Anyways, and so like I said, we're developing a couple products together and maybe going to do a little bit more together. We'll see how things go. But he also makes extremely cool. He took the Portaflex design and re-engineered it. It's a 12-inch speaker with a cabinet. Oh, I mean, with a tweeter, and it's a Portaflex. It doesn't. You have to use a speaker cabinet. I think the the original Portaflexes, the clips actually worked as the speaker connections. So you didn't even need a cable. But then that failed a lot. So Jim got rid of that.
Yeah.
But he takes any one of his heads and he'll stick it on there. And it doesn't sound like a big deal, but the lightweight heads, you put them on a cabinet and, you can rip them right off the top of the cabinet pretty easily. Yeah. When you have it anchored on the flip top, it's great. It's great. So I like that. It doesn't look as cool as a B15 because the B15 has a lot more tubes. In fact, I told Jim he needs to the one I have is a 400, which only has one tube. And he's like, as an engineer, you try to make it work with as few parts as possible. So, but like the 800 head has two tubes and it looks a little better, but when you lose the power tubes, it doesn't look quite as cool, but sounds right.
Yeah, all right.
Everybody uses the same power. Everybody who makes, it's called Class D or, lighter weight amps. It's a power module that is made by Bang & Olufsen. I don't know if you're familiar. It's a hi-fi company.
No, I've never understood all that. The Class C, the Class D.
I can't tell you all that. I can just tell you the Class D is a module and everybody uses the same one. The key is how your preamp sounds, because I have other brands and they all sound good and they do their thing, but I always go back to the Demeter. It just always sounds fucking right.
So was there anything between the Ampeg and the Demeter that you were playing? Were you playing Epiphany?
Epiphany has I play the Piccolo. Epiphany's got like a vintage, something that's supposed to sound tubey, and it does. It sounds pretty good.
Okay.
I need to do a good shootout.
You should.
Because I got a lot more amps. So I got a buddy coming over tomorrow. So maybe we'll plug a bunch in. But I should do it. And, I don't know if recording it, if you'll be able to hear it on YouTube enough to be able to tell a difference. An amp you really got to experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would depend on the mic. You would need like a really good mic to pick up all the nuance of the cabinet.
Yeah. The other thing is,
then it turns into a mic shootout.
I think the modular, I'm a big fan of single 12s, and just if you have a big gig, then bring 4 12s. And these days, like a two good 12s to me sounds every bit as good as an Ampeg 810. So that's 80 inches of speaker versus 24 inches speaker, and the sound's bigger. Yeah. Technology is great in amplification.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, basses we're still dealing with technology that was perfected in the 50s, which is fine.
Sure.
But amplifiers, and guitar players are probably more dialed in because they're, the all tube stuff and, but they're lugging around 60, 80 pound amplifiers. And I've got some Demeter guitar products that are pretty good. I think that there's opportunity there for lighter weight stuff.
I think that's the thing for me when amp shopping, I'm looking for stuff that's really portable and they can I can dial in like a bunch of different rooms, just like, the working guy thing. So I want one amp that I can use on upright and electric, and it's small enough to fit in the car and I don't have to make a ton of trips.
Yeah. Now let me ask you,
all that stuff.
Do you need a different preamp for electric as acoustic? Like Tony with Dylan, he uses actually a Demeter on the front end of a custom Meyer sound lab system that shows he got unlimited budget to create the ultimate rig for the Dylan gig.
Sure. And
Myers did the rig. I'm waiting for a picture, but I asked for it after the shutdown, so he hasn't played any gigs. But Myers chose the Demeter preamp.
Okay.
as a front end, but I don't know. I got lost. What were we talking
Does he double? You were asking if I need a.
Oh yeah. Do you need a different preamp for upright? Yeah.
I don't use one. Let's put it that way. Do I need one? I don't know. Like I've also like snooped around the upright market quite a bit, looking at their preamps and what the preamps do.
Isn't it like Walter Woods was a big deal at one point?
Yeah, and I remember
Acoustic Image. I've heard of that one.
Yeah. I think the deal with Walter Woods, it had something to do with the transformer that was in their electronics. From talking to friends that were playing them.
What does that mean? What's a transformer do?
I don't know, but apparently it was in there. And also,
I don't know.
There was something about like the little GK, the micro bass 112 combo that all the upright guys.
That was a cool little amp.
I had one of those forever, and that thing was a workhorse.
It's good, but I think the modern shit blows that out of the water.
Yeah. I also don't like amps that do too much. Like I don't want a tuner on there. I don't want an overdrive pedal. I don't want this dumb shit. I want like a nice.
Ashdown has the octave built in. Who needs an octave built in?
What is that? So what is that? I don't need that. Go buy an octave pedal.
Yeah. A good quality compressor can be useful. There's only Eden used to have a head that had a really good, I think it had a DBX chip that was good. And I'm waiting. I'm going to be a dealer for David has a new line, David from Eden, David Northscout. He's got DNA and I haven't got it yet, but I'm getting it.
Is that a new company of his?
Yeah.
So, but did he?
It's 10 years old.
Is he? That's relatively new. Is he still? Is he still doing Eden?
No. He sold to Washburn years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, he and his new ones, both of his heads have compression, and I bet it's good. I think that's useful.
Is it still the same type of thing? Like Eden had a very specific sound.
Yeah, Eden SWR, kind of that 80s thing.
Yeah, but
I don't know. I haven't heard his new stuff, so I can't tell you.
I met the SWR guy one time.
Steve Rebby.
Yeah.
Rebby. Yeah.
He used to come into this guitar store that I would teach at.
Steve's a genius. I wonder what he's doing now. But he, in addition to the SWR, after he sold SWR, he had a company called Raven Labs. Remember that? They had little boxes. They had what's called a buffer box. It was a very simple box that gave you 3 inputs. So you could equalize 3 basses into the amp so they're all the right volume.
Okay.
It was a great little.
So it's like an
box.
AB box built in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not built in. It was a box.
Oh, it was separate. Okay.
Yeah. And it had 3 inputs and he had a headphone amp that was really good. And I think a preamp, but now here's going back. The SWR, the SM400 was the big amp of theirs, which I never cared for, but it came from AMP, Amplified Music Products.
Okay.
They had a head that was one of the first lighter weight heads. It weighed like 15 pounds. I had one in college, so that's 80s. And it had the semi-parametric, in the middle, like the SWRs.
Right.
And that was Steve's first product. He did that design. But anyways, I don't know. The SWR, I didn't really like most of their stuff. The Redhead's a really good sounding amp.
The Redhead, I liked the Redhead, but that also had a tube pre.
Yeah. I don't know if it's still available.
Yeah, I don't know. Like they
Fender owns them.
Yeah, they got weird when Fender bought them out. I didn't love them to begin with, but I did like the Redhead. Then when Fender bought them,
it's heavy though. It's a heavy amp.
Yeah, but I was playing the Eden Metro for a long time, which is the same thing, the 210 combo.
Oh, that was a Metro. Oh,
well, I mean, the Metro is basically the Redhead,
but that's still a 50, 60 pound amp.
Yeah, it was heavy. No, it was like 90, like 80 or 90. It was heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, the good look was it had casters on it, but you still have to like hoist it into the car and do that thing. But it was a solid amp.
Hoist. I haven't heard anybody use that word in a long time.
That's the best word I can think of. It's a hoist.
It's a good word. I like a good word.
Yeah. Yeah, but it would also feed back a lot on upright.
Okay.
I remember that happening a lot.
But so let's see. I got Epiphany still kicking. Crazy Nick, great stuff. Still doing the DIST series. Demeter we've talked about. DNA we talked about.
Tell me about Trickfish. I know that's one of. I don't know that much about that brand.
Really well built cabinets, and the head sounds good. They got a couple preamp pedals, which I haven't played yet.
Where did they come from? Are they owned by somebody who is making another brand or in charge of another brand?
I came into them. A guy named Justin Youth does my website. He's the best, and he works for them actually full time. And we were talking, and they sent me a cabinet at 12 and a head, and I love it. And they make some cool 8-inch stuff.
Yeah, I like. That's why I've been looking at the Phil Jones stuff, man. For like small little uprights.
Phil is one of the nicest guys I've ever met, but I did not get along with his equipment. I hate to say.
Really?
He sent me a bunch of stuff, and I just didn't like it.
I remember hanging out at the booth. What was it? 2019 when we were at NAMM.
Yeah.
And you guys have a tight personal relationship, like you.
I don't know him that well. He's just very, very friendly.
Okay, well,
and I wish him the best.
He seemed as if you guys knew each other.
The other big brand that I'm not crazy about, and I think they either have a distribution or they sold to somebody really big, is Aguilar. Somebody bought Aguilar
recently.
Somebody big like Korg. I think Korg bought them.
When did that happen?
Recently.
Yeah.
And but Demeter.
What's the guy's name? I met the owner guy.
Dave Boonshoff.
Yeah.
Dave Boonshoff. And he but and I tried a lot of their stuff. I tried this 400 watt tube power amp and all kinds of gear. But to me, it always sounded, Demeter put it best. They said, it sounds like it's got a blanket over it. And it's not very clear. It's got its thing, and a lot of people like it. And I think it's the best looking stuff on the market. But
looks like I've always liked the sound a lot. I've always liked their cabinets. I've always liked their heads.
Tone hammer.
Yeah, I like the heads, the tone hammer, like the little DI box. I had played a few times. Like it's cool, but I like
really. I mean, you really gotta bring the equipment next to each other and listen within 30 seconds. And you really gotta compare stuff. It's hard to.
When I was doing an amp shootout with a buddy years ago, he had the Epiphany Ultralight 112. I bought it off him. That's where I got this. But we did that. We did Bergantino. We did Aguilar, and I forgot what other. There's a couple other cabs. I think there was a bag end.
That's something else. Stuff.
Yeah, we had like the same head. Both of our basses. And we just went through them all, and
it's amazing how different they sound, isn't it?
It is. And I thought Epiphany and Bergantino were the two best.
Yeah. And those guys have a history. I don't think they like each other for whatever reasons, but
did they used to work together? They're just competitors.
I don't know the story, but there's some history. They're both New York guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the kind of boutique-y bass amps in New York.
What do you know? Anything? Ampeg is now switched to Yamaha owns them now.
Was it Yamaha? Yeah, Roland, right? Roland,
Yamaha.
Yeah, which is also
Roland
Line
and Yamaha
6,
together,
right? I thought Line 6 was somehow involved with them.
Line 6, they sent me a single 15. Amp that sounded like every amp in the world. It was the worst sounding amp, and it weighed 100 pounds. It was terrible. I don't know what their new stuff is like, so I can't.
I've never checked in with that brand.
I don't know. Is there like
those little bass pods? Remember those?
Yeah.
Kidneys. I don't like stuff that does too much.
No. In fact, like on the guitar side, the big modeling amp is called a Kemper system, and they're but I'm just not into that at all. I mean, I just want I want 3 knobs, I want actually on the SVT redo that I'm talking about. I'm going to have volume, mid, bass, treble. That's it, and maybe the EQ points on the treble and bass.
And now are these like stock frequencies? Is your mids at 500? Is your bass at 60 or 80, and then trebles at 1K?
Well, I don't know what they are.
Okay.
Man, what do you think? I know this shit? Yeah, no.
I always look at that stuff, man. I always look at like, okay, like, plus or minus 50 dB at what frequency.
That's gonna give you an indication of what it is, but it's not. The sound is the sound. It's gonna be different.
Sure.
Yeah. But I think all the
500 is the most annoying frequency ever, though. I don't know why they do that with mids. Like, put it in something that actually. I hate the 500.
At Lakeland, we had a 4-position mid-range: 250, 500, 750, and 850. I don't remember what we set it at the factory.
The preamp in my Lakland bass has that little thing in the back, and I think the one you're building me has the toggle. It's
going to have it on top.
Yeah, which is great. It will definitely not be in the 500 position ever.
Okay.
That is recorded information now.
It's going to go to the painter this week.
Cool. I'm excited.
It's going to go to the Nitro guy. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I like the idea of Nitro.
I've had to talk you out of just about every option you've had. It's like,
I know.
You spec out the worst shit. How about a matte finish? Okay, it's a quill top. Let's put.
I like the idea of a matte finish.
Let's obscure it. Yeah. Hey, base.
That's actually been one of the most fun parts about putting that bass together is because you and I are coming from such different places.
Right.
So tell me about this the giveaway you're doing.
Well, I'll tell you why.
And for the record, these are not setups. I don't know this information. Like you told me about the bass giveaway, and I'm like, sure, I'll talk about it, but I don't always know.
Well, it's Facebook, which has been very good to me. I got a lot of business off Facebook, has a 5,000 friend limit.
Yeah.
And I'm at the limit. I've got like 4,000 bass players and 600 Filipino hookers. And so
that's only because it syncs in your phone contacts. You already had those to begin with.
So I want to move people over to Lakin Musical Instruments because I want because I'm coming out with guitars. Bass players, don't worry. Bass is still first and foremost. But
who's on your guitar player roster? What guitar players have you sent?
I don't have anybody on the roster. I got plenty of guys I want to throw the bass, but the first guitar is just getting completed in about 3 weeks. So
okay,
we're modeling we're taking the Music Man guitar from the late 70s. Music Man makes a lot of guitars now, and a lot of them use that perimeter. It's a Strat-like body, but the Music Mans were not commercially successful. The basses were from day one. The Stingray was a hit right out of the box. Everybody was using Stingrays. Tonight Show used to see it behind there. They were everywhere.
So that bass player that was playing on the Tonight Show, I studied with him. That's Joel DeBartolo.
Oh yeah.
What's funny is I played that bass at a lesson.
Natural, right? With a white pickguard, I think.
Yeah. And I remember him talking about it, and he's like, "Man, they sent it to me because I had the TV show gig, but that's not the bass I bring to gigs."
Yeah.
But he liked it, and I played it, and it played, and sounded great.
The Stingray was a great bass. In fact, I'm writing a book. It's almost done. It's called The Big Three. It's about P bass, jazz bass, and the Stingray. And see, the Stingray, I started playing in 76, which is when the Stingray came out. And the first store I used to hang out at, which is still around, it's called the Music Gallery. They were early Music Man dealers. And I mean, before I could even, play a scale, I knew about Leo Fender and the old CBS stuff. And, I was always kind of more into the gear than playing it. But the Stingray, if you look at it, every aspect of that bass was reimagined. Okay. Strap buttons, pickups, nothing was untouched. The bridge, although I would say the only flaw is the mutes are unusable, or you can't go in and out. If you want them set, you can set them, but you can't. The thumb screws, you can't, like in the middle of a song switch. So I don't think that's great. But
what year did they do away with those? Because I remember the fretless, the Stingray fretless I had that I think was a 82
Yeah.
84.
They still had them, I think. No,
that fretless did not.
Well, they've permanently got away from them now, but they still, when they do a reissue, people want to see them. It looks correct.
Sure.
But they're really, it's a bad design. So, but like I say, every aspect of the guitar, my website has the original I got two great catalogs. I got the 76 catalog, which has the Stingray, white pickguard radio knobs, which I don't know if you know what that is. There's a chrome knurled, which is what they went to in like late 76. And that was what it is till to today. Radio knobs have an indicator on them. I like them better.
With the numbers?
Not with a number. No, just with a line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but the preamp was new. Nobody made active except for Alembic, and that had a big box you had to plug into the wall.
Yeah, and like an XL and an
active
XLR
was new. The humbucking pickup was new. The tuners had tapered shafts. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but tapered shaft makes it much easier to string because it falls to the bottom of the shaft.
Mm-hmm.
It was it was cool, and the guitars were like that as well. And I don't know why the guitars weren't successful. And I did a little Facebook thing on that. I have a couple of theories. Could be that guitar players never got into active, but when the basses came out, bass players didn't know active because this was the first one. So, right. And guitar players, they're scared of a 9-volt. Well, they don't seem to mind a 9-volt in pedals. So is it active? The guitar also went out of production, in 4 years. They made a shitload of them,
Who else besides Van Halen was on their guitar? Because I know Van Halen was playing them, right?
No. Van Halen was Ernie Ball years later. No. I'll tell you, there's two. There are two. Three. There was a band called Alabama that was a country band and they were like all Music Man. The amps, the guitar, it looked almost hokey.
Okay.
Then there was Little Feat. I don't know if you're familiar, but
I know
one of my
name.
favorite bands. They're a great band. Dixie Chicken. I don't know. You can look them up. They're great.
Okay.
Lowell George was the leader of slide guitar player, died in 1980, but they were in the 70s. They put out an album called Waiting for Columbus, which is, look it up. It's one of the best live albums of all time. And Lowell did not use the guitar, but Paul Barrar, who played plenty of great guitar work, is using a Stingray on that record. And a great movie, a concert movie, Stop Making Sense by Talking Heads, which is directed by Jonathan Demme. It's one of the best concert films. And it's got a guitar player named Alex Weir, who's a funk player. Mm-hmm. And he played a saber in that concert. But other than that, you just didn't see him. And Fender made the basses for Music Man. He had a company called CLF. Music Man was an amp company in the early 70s. And Leo had a non-compete with Fender, and then that was up. It was like, I think it was 10-year. So in 75, he was able to compete again, and he hooked up with Music Man, and they gave him the name and the logo and everything. But Leo and George Fullerton, who are the two guys, and another guy named Forrest White, the Fender team designed the instruments, and they manufactured them for Music Man. And then there was a falling out between CLF and Music Man. And then Leo said he didn't want to deal with them anymore, and he started G&L at that point. So the guitars were only made by Fender for 4 years, but he made a shitload of them. I mean, they were, I don't know, 100 a day. I mean, they were pumping them out.
Okay.
And they were good.
Where was that factory? Was that factory also in
Fullerton?
California?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay. But if you look at the quality, especially like looking at the guitars, look at the bass. If you take a 1976 Fender Strat, it's awful. I mean, I I don't mind saying that was the height of the shitty CBS designs. The finishes had heavy lacquer that no one liked. The pickup routes looked like the moat around the pickup. I mean, they didn't sharpen the tools, so the routes were bad. The neck pockets were bad. Jazz basses had a 3-bolt neck that shifted. I mean, it was just like you could move it. I mean, they were awful.
Okay.
And Music Man at the same period was putting out amazing stuff. And today, if you, not so much on the basses, basses are very valuable. They're pre-Ernie Ball stuff. If you take a Music Man guitar from like 76, I have one that's untouched. I bought it for $1,100 like a year ago. Wow. And a Fender 76 in that condition would go like $4,000 or $5,000. It's crazy.
Right.
But that's just the market and the brand. You know, I don't know. I threw something up on Facebook yesterday, and a friend of mine, I was asking about why they weren't successful. The guitars, he's like, bad branding and bad logo. I'm like, first of all, it's a great name. And the logo is the best logo ever made.
Yeah, I like the headstock too. I really like.
No, the 3-in-1 headstock is brilliant.
Yeah,
just because it was. Why didn't anybody do it before? Number one, and number two, they got a copyright. Okay, what that means? If you have a patent, like tapered shafts were a patent. Okay. So after 17 years, anybody could make a tapered shaft.
Right.
Okay, that's a patent life. I don't know why they pick 17 years, but whatever it is, a copyright lives forever. Nobody can ever make a 3-in-1 unless Music Man decides to stop policing it. But you have to protect your copyright. In other words, you know, the law is not going to do it. So if anybody comes out in 3-in-1, Music Man's on them, as they should be.
Yeah. Yeah, but you did the 3-in-2 with Lakland.
Well, yeah,
I liked that. I like that a lot.
I know. Luckily, they didn't.
I don't like 5. I don't like 5 in a row on a 5-string.
Yeah, I don't like 5-string.
Like when Fender was doing that.
I really don't care for that. I don't like any tone lower than the E. It sounds unnatural to me.
Right.
I went and saw a Steely Dan cover band, and it was a really good bass player. I'm not going to say his name. He was playing with.
Was this in Chicago?
Yeah.
Or was this okay?
It was in Chicago, and they were a really good band. But the guy kept hammering the fucking B string, and I'm like, those notes were not on the recording. I honestly think 5s have had their height. I think they're here to stay. You know, and that they're a thing, and they're here to stay. But like at Lakland, we made more 5s than 4s. But right now, I've tooled up to make 5s, and I've only got like 3 orders for 5s.
You're right. I think given your personal strong opinions about what a bass should be, you're going to get, you know, customers that align with what you do, which is like, yeah, you make the 5. I have a Lakland 5, but you know, people are going to go with like classic P's and J's and Music Bands. Like people who want classic shit are going to go to you.
Yeah.
And like super boutique-y, you know, 6 strings with all these exotic woods and blah, 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 blah.
That's another thing. I think
those are your people.
Yeah. I mean, the exotic wood thing is also, I think, has peaked. I think it'll be around, but like, I'm not a fan of it. Like, I get a lot of shit because I use Spitfire tortoiseshell. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I used to struggle with tortoise as a manufacturer. Nobody made good tortoise. And you look at old Fenders, and the tortoise was beautiful. And then in like 66, again, when CBS took over, it got shit right away. And then when I was making it, WD made something that was passable, but I still didn't love it.
Okay.
This guy starts making it. I don't know how he makes it, and he's very secretive about it. And I couldn't believe how beautiful it was. Look on my website and look. It's just fantastic.
I remember you showing it to me.
Yeah, well, you have a bass with it, the D-Lakin that you have. But I get people that are like $300 for a pick guard because that's what it is. I don't charge any extra. I just charge $300 up. And, it's like you'll pay $2,000 for a quilt top. I get more enjoyment out of looking at that tortoise than I would a quilted top. So, but it's funny. No other manufacturer is offering it. And the guy came by the NAMM show and he brought it by Fender. Fender had a custom shop builders making guitars at the show. And so he showed them the material and they were like, they were drooling. And they're like, okay, we can give you $30. Right. Because a pickguard's a $2 or $3 item for a manufacturer. And but I love the guy because he won't bow down to it. He won't. It's like, you're 250, 300 or what, no matter what. And he's really particular about the templates, and like he'll get on me if I get him a template. It's not perfect. He'll like harangue me till I give him a.
That's what I've been dealing with you. It's the same guy. You're dealing with yourself. That's all that's happening then.
He makes it really hard. Like if you have a guitar and you want a pickguard made, he'll require a template made to a certain spec. Like WD, you can send them a pickguard and they'll send you back a pickguard. They'll make it. Right. This guy, like, he makes you jump through hoops and shit, but it's kind of worth it.
Well, yeah, but you're getting this tortoise shell that doesn't look like anything else.
It's right. Yeah. And I, Spitfire tortoise, I want him to be very healthy and make a bunch of money and stay in business.
Do you, are those on all of the bases you're putting out right now when you do tortoise?
They're an option on anything that I make. Yeah.
Okay. What are the other options for pickguards? Flat white, flat black? Do you do like a 3-ply where it's like white, black, white, all that?
White is the default, white or black.
Yeah.
Pearl is good. Pearl is very cheap and good. That I haven't made any. Well, I made one with pearl, but I made a mirror for a guy from the 70s. Use it to cut coke on when you
when you're at the session.
Yeah, that was the first 5 I made. But there's great components available. You got hip shot tuners, you got the pickup guys, and I use Lindy Fralin on the Fender stuff on the P&J. I always use them and super easy to deal with. And Curtis Novak is brilliant.
Yeah,
these guys like eat, sleep, shit pickups and are so into it. They're almost as weird as the amp guys. Actually, they're weirder.
I think they're weirder.
Not Curtis. He's pretty down there.
They're dealing with even a smaller thing.
Yeah.
The amp, they're dealing with the speakers too. They're dealing with just the one part of it.
But a pickup they're people, think like the Gibson PAF has this magic, and at Fender, you wanted the pickup that was wound by Lupe Torres, or I don't believe any of that shit. It's although I think manufacturers do have their tricks, their ways to make it right. Like Fralin P pickup, when we shifted to Lakland making our own electronics, we had to go back and reverse engineer and make sure we were putting out stuff that was as good as what we were making.
Sure.
And the jazz pickups were easy. But the P pickup, we couldn't hit it. Fralin's was just killing us.
Now, why did Lakland do that? Because you personally are such a purist. Why did you? Was it a cost thing? Was it a manufacturing production decision?
A couple of things. It was a mistake.
Okay.
But Bartolini was holding us up. We used to get Skylines without electronics, which was stupid because we just never had enough money to send 40 sets of pickups at one time.
Yeah.
We would get the Skylines without pickups and have to install them. And there were times when we had, like 50 basses and no pickups. So that was one. That was really the worst thing. And then I had some partners, the guys that run it now, and one of the partners wanted a different line of work. He was a stockbroker, and we didn't have room for him in the company. And so that was and we had an electronics engineer friend of ours, local, and he said, I can show you guys how to wind them. There's winding machines. I'll design the preamp. That was simple. You just order it from overseas and hook it up to the potentiometers and whatever. So, and then the guy did a good job, and I think the pickups are okay. But I don't know. A lot of people think the Bartolini stuff sounded better, and it was quieter. I know that Bartolini was fiercely protective of their secrets. And they were a brilliant move. Rather than try to protect it with patents and legally, which is hard to do, especially on a component like that goes under a hood.
Right.
They cast everything in solid epoxy. I mean, you cannot. I still to this day have
you can't reverse engineer it.
I have no idea what a Bartolini coil looks like.
Interesting.
None. And Music Man did it on the original Stingray. The preamp is black epoxy, and you say, oh, well, they probably did that to protect it. It's like, no, protect it from moisture or anything or something. It's just there to obscure the components so people can't copy it.
Yeah, twofold. I mean, both are happening. It does protect it from elements, but it also protects it from investigation.
But the primary reason to do it is to protect the secrets. And Bartolini, all their preamps are sunk in solid epoxy, and they still do it to this day. It's brilliant.
Huh. Yeah, it's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Are you using Bartolini preamps when you do active basses? I'm making a 5-string. Well, I'm making one for you. And then I have another one that I'm making a 4-string for a guy who is an old Lakland 494 lover. And I'm making a P pickup with a Music Man and their Bartolini. Okay.
With the Bartolini NTMB L, which was just the Lakland version of the NTMB. So, but I haven't heard it for a while. I put it in a D.Lakin Shark about 4 years ago. It sounded great. It was very familiar sounding. It was good.
Nice.
Man, I got to tell you, Bartolini was so mad. Like Lindy Fralin was like, "Hey, cool, man, I'm doing your own thing." But we kept it quiet because we didn't want Bartolini to like retaliate and not ship or something,
Right.
And we ended up at the NAMM show, and I mean, I was really close with these guys, and especially Pat. I would talk to her on the phone for hours and hours, and I'm bipolar. She had a brother who's bipolar, and we talk. And then I showed Bill, I'm like, look what we did. It's good, isn't it? And he goes, and he just made this meanest face. He's like, no. And that's the last time I've ever talked to him. And really? I've tried, even they've sold the company, they moved on. I've sent emails begging for them to bring me back in their life. And,
was it like more of a personal offense to him then instead of just like a
business was very personal for him. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was great. I mean, he gave me his booth at the NAMM show is always one of the more interesting booths because builders who only had 1 or 2 basses put him in his booth. 94 summer was my first show. And, I remember, just going to that show and putting it in that booth. I remember trying to get Michael Rhodes. Everybody's like, he's the best bass player in town. And he came over and I'm like, what do you think, Mr. Rhodes? Would you like to try this? He goes, I don't play 4s anymore. And I was like, oh no. People have asked me about a short scale 35-string. Luckily, not many, because I don't think it would work well. I'm not going to make it.
Yeah, that seems like it'd be a pretty flabby B that wouldn't be too clear. There's just not enough tension. It'd be a fun experiment, if you want to throw away money.
Yeah. I like doing that.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, next time you want to throw away money, instead of going to Vegas and losing it all on these hookers that are in your
phone,
just make a fucking short scale instead of the hooker, Dan.
Hey, I was fooling around and I had
nice segue.
Yeah. No. One day I was like, I want to play some slots or black. I don't know why. I'm not a gambler. And I went on a website and put $100 in, hit like 4 slots, and I hit $1,000.
Really?
And then I went, all right, I'm going to never do this again. I'm going to get my money. And the company was called Buzz Luck Casino. And they took my money in less than a minute. But what I had to do to get my money, I had to show them proof of where I lived, a mail. I had to, it was incredible. It took me like 5 weeks. And by that time I pissed away like 300 of it, but I still got it. I'm making a bass for the bass player of the Dirty Knobs. Do you know who the Dirty Knobs are?
I do.
Who are they?
That's Mike Campbell's band.
Yeah. Lance Morrison, who's one of the best bass players ever, and good guy and a good looking guy. Yeah. But he plays with Mike Campbell, and you listen, the song's called Reckless Abandon. It's a hit as much as things can be a hit now.
Yeah.
It's a great song. The whole record's good.
That's the name of the record too.
Yeah, Reckless Abandon. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny. It's like when Keith Richard put out a solo record, like it was like 1980, late 80s or might have been earlier. But anyways, you heard Keith Richard like, oh my God, you never realized how much of the Stones sound was from Keith.
Yeah.
When you hear Keith alone. Same thing with Mike Campbell. You're like, Jesus, Petty, yes, but Mike is a huge component. Well, he's also had a history of pretty great songs, Boys of Summer, and he co-wrote a lot of the Petty stuff, obviously, too. But the record, so he wanted a bass, and this is all he told me. I want a P bass with 30 knobs.
That was the instruction?
That was the instruction. In fact, yeah, we're going to do an inspired series. So what I did was,
it's a P,
it's a P bass.
Yeah.
So it's chrome knobs. So I got Hipshot to give me a set of unplated, which is brass. So it's slightly like a light gold look. And then at the advice of Dave at Hipshot, I soaked them in a cup of bleach.
Okay.
For about 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And they look pretty dirty. I'm pretty happy. Yeah.
That's cool.
Very successful.
So is that where the band got its name?
No, not from our bass. No, I don't know the genesis of the Dirty Knob name.
Yeah. Oddly enough, I met him at the bass player dinner you did at that Mexican restaurant.
You met Lance. Yeah.
Yeah. I was sitting across the table from him. I'm like,
Lance is
you guys. It was like you, Jen, John Pierce. Who else was there? Sean Hurley.
Kevin McPherson was
he was all the way at the other end. I don't think I really talked to him that much, but I was sitting right across the table from Lance. And when I texted him to do the podcast, I pulled up his number and there was already a text history there. I'm like, really? What? I'm like, dude, apparently we've talked before. I don't know. I remember where I met you, but what do you think about doing this? And he said yes, which is great. And I'm actually talking to him later today. We're going to record that.
He's studio, as far as a modern studio player, he's as good as it gets. And you just listen to the song. The bass part is
he's the guy that played on Jagged Little Pill, with the exception of Flea playing on You Ought to Know, I think it's the song.
Yeah. Lance has played and probably still will played with Don Henley.
Yeah.
And the last,
don't give away the podcast, man. You're blowing the wad on the next podcast.
Don't worry.
You're giving away
but he won't say this, but at the last, I think it was the last show before COVID. And he said, we've known each other for a long time. And he said, well, you can't come backstage. Don is not allowing any guests backstage. And I'm just, I'm like, Lance, you ever just look at Don and say, well, why are you a fucking asshole? You know, what the fuck? If you don't want guests, stay in your dressing room. But you know, what the fuck? Lance didn't even,
right.
you know,
a little bummed out about that then, huh?
Yeah, I was pissed. I want to say I didn't want to see Don. What am I going to say to Don? You know, great. Thanks for the songs. Bye. You know, I made David Hood was you just had him on. He didn't tell the story because he told about his bass that got stolen, but that bass had a really cool story and it's all up on the website. I love this.
He talks about the furniture finish.
Yeah, but
like you did the same color.
His buddy, he was in a band. They were like 13 years old, 1961, and his guitar player's dad owned a hardware store. Yeah, and he wanted a bass from Fender, and he got the hardware store guy to call Fender and say, "Oh, I sell instruments also." So Fender sold direct to him. Okay. So he got the jazz bass for like $200. Yeah. He had the receipt. I said, how did you know about the jazz bass? 1961. He said, oh, it was in an ad. And I remember Downbeat used to run Fender ads, really cool Fender ads. He had the ad. Oh, and wow. I got all this on the website. It's really cool. And losing that bass really hit him hard because that was, that was the only bass he used in the 60s.
Right. And all that stuff.
And he says, it's 1973. He had money. He went to Sam Ash and he, bought a Fender Jazz and he's like, it was junk. He was right. They were 73. They weren't as bad as they got, but they were pretty bad and nothing like the old ones. It was like that for a long time. Yeah. Fender's finally, now makes a bass like.
And so when you made his Swamper, did you go back to the 61 specs?
Well, yeah, except his was made out of walnut, or was a walnut stain. Right. And coincidentally, my builder, actually, that's a guitar that started my whole new company. In 2018, a builder named Dan Strack, who was a Lakland guy, I was out of D.Lakin Korean stuff and I was like retired and I ordered a guitar from him and he made it out of walnut and it was such a great guitar, every aspect. And there were a lot of Lakland design features and things. And it got me, I was like, oh man, if we could do this together and you could build them and I could sell them. And it was made out of walnut. It was like, familiar with George Harrison played an all rosewood Telecaster. And so I was going for that look. Okay. So when David told me about the walnut, I was like, let's do it out of real walnut and let's do the neck too. Yeah. Yeah. Put a rosewood fingerboard. It came out beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a good looking bass. And then I got George Porter's doing a P bass with blocks and binding. It's not like his original Fender, but I am. He did play a B neck, which is a 1.625 in between a J and a P. Okay. I'm doing that for him. He's a real good guy. So, I mean, a lot of guys I've approached, and some guys are like, nope, it's not free. I don't want it. I'm not going to say any names, but that shit happens. But a lot of guys have been very supportive and cool. it's Mike Gordon from Fish. I kind of knew he was into this, the Grateful Dead stuff that I listened to a lot. And I said, I really think this bass does that tone. And so I sent him mine. He loved it. So he got one. So
sweet.
It's cool.
Yeah. What else?
It's going better than I ever thought it would.
Good. So, good. Yeah. Good. What, so you're doing these basses, you got some guitars you're going to release with D.Lakin. You got
the guitar thing is like, it's kind of never been done. What I mean by that is, when you're known, like say PRS has tried to make basses, I think 3 times now. He's like designed a line and big deal, and it goes nowhere. The only buddy that buys a PRS bass is a PRS guitar collector who wants to add a bass. Right. So can I cross the line? We'll see.
doing the guitar. You're doing the amps. You're working with these. What else you got? You're doing the bass giveaway. You're writing a book. What else? What else are you up to?
Working on a car. No. I think that's enough.
That's enough too.
I haven't played music in live for over 10 years, so I'm going to try that again in a couple of weeks.
Cool, man. Cool. Talk. I don't know if we fully got that. Talk about how to, for my own sake too. How does somebody get involved with the bass giveaway? Oh,
just go to the website, and then there. Although I can't tell you exactly how to do it, it should be clear enough that you can enter like 5 times. See, I never finished, but so Facebook, I got too many friends. I have to start a new kind of page.
Yeah.
So I want to draw people to the new page, which is Lakland Musical Instruments.
Cool.
So but if you go to the website, it's all laid out. And so if you sign up for Facebook, I think Instagram, and share a Facebook page, there's a way to get 5 entries. And, to be honest, I mean, compared to the lotto, your odds are pretty good here.
Yeah.
And I'm also giving away 3 Peterson strobe tuners.
Yeah.
And cool. 5 sets of flats.
Cool. Labella.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Great talking to you, buddy.
Likewise, dude. Likewise. And it was just your birthday, and happy birthday again. I know we talked around your birthday, but happy birthday again.
Thanks.
You got to release some footage of this band. We need to hear you play, Dan.
Oh my God. We'll see.
All right. All right. Cool, dude. Thanks for being on, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, buddy. Take it easy.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye.
All right, that was my talk with Dan Lakin. You can go to www.dlakinbasses.com to learn more about the bass giveaway, to check out Dan's amp shop, see all the things he's up to. That guy's always got a bunch of plates spinning. He'll be sharing more of the products he was talking about there and on social media as well. Check him out online, Facebook, D.Lakin Basses, Instagram, D.Lakin Basses. Track him down, follow him, and also enter the bass giveaway. It's pretty a cool deal. You win the bass of your dreams. That's kind of cool. I mean, I've loved building a bass with him, and I can only imagine anybody else would also. You can follow the Bass Shed on the same social media platforms: Facebook /The Bass Shed, Instagram @The Bass Shed, Twitter @Bass Shed. I'm going to be sending out some email blasts, letting everybody know the new content that's coming, because I just finally got the website revamped. I'm getting ready to publish it. And so you can sign up for the newsletter at thebassshed.com. And then that will let you know all the news. And don't worry, I'm not going to be blowing up the email, right? Because that's the worst thing ever. You sign up for these email lists because you're kind of curious, like, what's happening? Then all of a sudden, all you end up doing is just deleting it all. So I'm not going to be that guy. Sign up for the newsletter. I'll send out the stuff in like a respectful way, so I'm not blowing up your email. But yeah, you guys can check out what's happening at thebassshed.com and the new courses and the new transcription collections and all that stuff. That's what I got, folks. That's what I got. I will catch you on the next one in a minute.